The stadium lights burned bright that night, but for Caitlin Clark, it felt like she was standing in the shadows. She was there, suited up, heart pounding, but no one was calling her name. The crowd roared for others. The starters, the stars, the ones the headlines followed. Caitlin sat on the bench, clutching her warm-up jacket tighter, pretending not to hear the announcer skip over her. No one knew then. They were watching a storm quietly form. Growing up in West Des Moines, Iowa, Caitlin wasn't just another kid dribbling a basketball. She was obsessed. Her family still remembers the sound of the ball thumping against the driveway until well past dark. But obsession didn't always equal recognition. In high school, she faced a truth that stung more than any loss. Coaches didn't think she was ready for the big moments. She was talented, sure, but too small, not physical enough. She needs more time to develop. Those words followed her like a shadow. Caitlin didn't complain, at least not out loud. She smiled through team photos, cheered from the sidelines, and swallowed the bitterness. But inside, every dismissal was gasoline to a fire she didn't yet know how to unleash. Her father once told her, "The world doesn't hand you moments, you take them." At the time, she didn't understand what that meant, but soon she would. The first real test came during her sophomore year. It was a tight game against a rival school, the clock ticking down, their team trailing by 3. The gym was electric, parents shouting, sneakers squealing across the hardwood. The coach scanned the bench for a spark, and still his eyes slid past Caitlin. "Clark, sit tight," he said. She watched as another player, a senior, took the shot. It clanged off the rim. Game over. As the team shuffled to the locker room, Caitlin kept her head low. The hurt wasn't just about losing. It was about never being given the chance to lose. That night, she didn't sleep. She replayed every drill she'd done in practice, every rep, every sprint, wondering why it wasn't enough. But then something shifted. She stopped asking why and started asking how. How could she become undeniable? The next morning, Caitlin's routine changed. She wasn't just practicing anymore. She was hunting weaknesses. She shot until her arms burned. She studied film of WNBA legends, rewinding every move. She shadowed the best defenders on her team during scrimmages, forcing herself into uncomfortable positions until they had to take notice. Her teammates saw it first. "She's different," one whispered during a drill. The coach? Not so much. It wasn't until a preseason scrimmage the following year that opportunity, unexpected, messy, and terrifying, came knocking. Their star point guard twisted her ankle early in the first quarter. The coach scanned the bench again, and this time his eyes landed on Caitlin. "Clark, you're in." She felt her stomach drop. This was it, the moment she'd been begging for. The ball felt foreign in her hands at first. The gym noise faded into a low hum. Her defender was bigger, stronger, and smirking like she already knew how this was going to end. But Caitlin's mind went quiet. One crossover, a hesitation step. She blew past the defender and nailed a pull-up jumper. The crowd reacted, not with the roar of a championship win, but with the sharp, collective woe of surprise. She didn't stop there. She hustled back on defense, picked off a lazy pass, and hit a 3 on the other end. By halftime, whispers were spreading through the stands. "Who is that? She's killing them." It wasn't a perfect game. She missed shots, turned the ball over, but something had shifted. For the first time, she wasn't invisible. Her name was being said out loud. That night, Caitlin sat alone in the locker room after the team had gone. She stared at the scoreboard still glowing in the empty gym. She wasn't thinking about the points she'd scored. She was thinking about her father's words. Moments aren't given, you take them. But even with that breakthrough, the road ahead was far from smooth. A single game didn't erase years of doubt. Coaches still saw her as the backup. Reporters barely noticed her. And deep down, Caitlin feared that maybe this was a fluke. A lucky night she'd never replicate. That fear followed her into the next game and the one after. Some nights, she barely touched the ball. Other nights, she made shots but still sat for long stretches. The difference now, she wasn't waiting for someone to believe in her anymore. She was building the kind of game that didn't require permission to shine. And somewhere down the line, that mindset would turn her from bench warmer to something much more dangerous. Before we move on, if you've ever had a moment where someone doubted you and you proved them wrong, drop a fire in the comments. Let's hear your story. The breakthrough came the most unexpected way. An early season tournament where her team faced a top-ranked squad in the state. The plan was simple: survive the first half without getting blown out. But Caitlin had other ideas. The first quarter was a blur. Fast breaks, deep threes, passes that cut through defenders like glass. By halftime, she had the crowd buzzing. Her coach, still cautious. He pulled her aside and said, "Don't get too ahead of yourself, Clark. One good half doesn't win the game." She nodded, but inside, something was rising. This wasn't about one half. This was about erasing the word bench warmer from her story forever. And as the second half began, Caitlin didn't just play basketball. She declared war. With 3 minutes left and the game tied, Caitlin caught the ball just past half court. The defender stepped up, hands high, ready to smother her. And then, without warning, she launched a shot from a distance that made the crowd gasp. The ball hung in the air, time slowing to a crawl. The ball spun in the air like it was fighting gravity. The crowd's gasp turned into a collective silence. For a heartbeat, it felt like everyone in the gym, including Caitlin, was frozen, watching at the arc. And then, swish. The net snapped, the scoreboard lit up, and the gym exploded in a roar so loud it rattled the bleachers. Caitlin didn't smile. She didn't pump her fist. She just backpedaled on defense. Her eyes locked, her heartbeat hammering in her ears. That shot hadn't been luck. That was years of work finally answering back. Her team rallied. With under a minute to go, they were up by 2. The ball came to Caitlin again. The defenders swarmed her, hands slapping, arms reaching. But she threaded a pass to her teammate under the hoop for the dagger layup. Final buzzer. Upset complete. Reporters swarmed the team. But something strange happened. Caitlin wasn't the center of the attention. Not yet. The story the next day mentioned her in passing, buried under praise for a total team effort. She read the article twice. No photo of her. No highlight reel clip circulating. But instead of feeling crushed, Caitlin smiled. She knew something the reporters didn't. This was only the beginning. Over the next few weeks, Caitlin's minutes on the floor began to grow. She wasn't a starter, not officially, but she was a spark they couldn't ignore. In practices, she played with a kind of ferocity that made even the veterans uneasy. One senior finally pulled her aside and said, "You're making the rest of us look bad." Caitlin just shrugged, then stepped it up. It wasn't arrogance. It was survival. She'd spent too long watching from the bench. Now, every second on the court was a statement. Then came the game. It was mid-season, packed house, rivalry night. Both teams were unbeaten. Scouts were in the stands. The air was thick with that kind of nervous electricity only a basketball crowd knows. The starters jogged out for warm-ups. Caitlin stayed on the bench, bouncing her leg, watching every movement on the court. She didn't know if she'd get in. She didn't care. She was ready. Midway through the first quarter, her team was down by 10. The coach was pacing, barking instructions, looking for a way to slow the bleeding. His eyes landed on Caitlin. "Clark, get in there." The crowd barely reacted. She was still, in their minds, a name they didn't know. First possession, steal. Second possession, step back 3. Third possession, drive into the paint. Absorb the contact, hit the layup, and draw the foul. By the time the buzzer sounded for the end of the quarter, the deficit had vanished, and people in the stands were starting to say her name. But this game was far from over. The second half turned into a slugfest. Bodies colliding, elbows swinging, whistles blowing. The score was tied with 30 seconds left. Her team had the ball. Coach drew up a play that didn't involve Caitlin. She nodded, but inside, she felt the same knot she felt on that bench years earlier. The ache of being overlooked. When the play broke down and the ball ended up in her hands, she didn't hesitate. She dribbled once, rose up, and fired. Another swish. The crowd went berserk. Her teammates mobbed her. The next morning, Caitlin's phone blew up, texts, social media tags, even a call from a local sports reporter who wanted to feature her. This was it. She could feel it. Except something unexpected happened. With attention came pressure, and with pressure came critics. She'd miss a shot in the next game, and whispers would ripple through the stands. She's not as clutch as they say. She'd commit a turnover, and the local blog would post about it. It was dizzying. One moment she was invisible. Now she was under a microscope. Her father noticed. One night after a tough loss, she sat at the kitchen table, scrolling through comments on her phone. Her dad gently pulled out of her hands. "You're playing for them now," he said, nodding toward the screen. "You can't do that. You play for you. The rest will follow." She didn't say anything, but those words stuck. Then came the state tournament. Her chance to prove that all this noise meant something. The first 2 games, she was electric, hitting deep threes, picking apart defenses, and leading her team to blowout wins. The semifinals were different. The other team had one goal: shut Caitlin Clark down. They trapped her at half court, chased her off the three-point line, forced her to give up the ball. At halftime, she had only 4 points. In the locker room, coach gave a speech to the team, but Caitlin barely heard it. Her mind was somewhere else. This wasn't just a bad half. This was every coach who'd ever bench her. Every person who said she wasn't ready. Every shadow she fought to step out of, all trying to drag her back. When the second half began, she played like a different person. She didn't just wait for the ball. She demanded it. She cut harder, moved faster, found gaps in the defense no one else could see. Three-pointer, pull-up jumper, fast break layup. The crowd was roaring now, not just because she was scoring, but because she was taking over. With 10 seconds left and the game tied, coach called timeout. The play was for Caitlin. No questions this time. She dribbled at the top of the key, the clock ticking down, the defender pressing hard. She faked right, spun left, rose up, and then, if you're still with me, hit that like button so we can keep Caitlin's fire burning in this story. A hand came out of nowhere, slapping the ball away mid-shot. It bounced toward the sideline, rolling dangerously close to going out of bounds. Caitlin dove after it, hitting the floor hard. The crowd gasped as the buzzer blared. But was it too late? The gym was chaos. Whistles blowing, fans screaming, the scoreboard frozen at a tie. Caitlin lay on the hardwood, her chest heaving, her hand still gripping the ball. Her knee stung from the dive. A scrape on her elbow left a thin streak of blood on the court. But she didn't care. She'd saved the ball, barely. The referee pointed toward her team's basket. Possession. 1 second left. Coach called an emergency timeout. The huddle was a blur, his voice sharp, diagramming a quick inbound play. But Caitlin's ears were pounding with adrenaline. "You take it," Coach finally said, locking eyes with her. It wasn't a suggestion. It was trust. The whistle blew. Her teammate tossed the ball in. Caitlin caught it in one motion, turned, and launched a desperate shot over 2 defenders. Clang. The ball bounced hard off the rim. Overtime. The first minute of overtime was brutal. Both teams were exhausted, but neither was backing down. Bodies collided in the paint. The ball changed hands on almost every possession, and the scoreboard inched forward point by painful point. With 30 seconds left, her team was down by 1. Caitlin brought the ball up the floor, weaving past defenders. She could have driven for the layup, but she stopped short. The defender dared her to shoot. She did. Deep three. Perfect form. Net. When the final buzzer sounded minutes later, Caitlin's team was headed to the state championship. She was mobbed by teammates. Her name chanted from the stands. For the first time in her career, she wasn't just a player. She was a player. The championship game was held in a massive arena. Bright lights, TV cameras, packed stands. Caitlin's stomach churned as she stepped onto the court. This was more than a game. Scouts were watching. The media was watching. And somewhere deep down, that same invisible little girl on the bench was watching too. The first half was a war. The other team had a 6 feet 3 inches defensive monster guarding her. Long arms, quick feet, no mercy. Every shot Caitlin took was contested. Every drive ended with a hard bump or swipe. She hit the floor twice in the first quarter alone, but she kept getting up. Halftime came with her team trailing by 7. In the locker room, Coach didn't yell. He just looked around the room and said, "Who wants it more?" Caitlin didn't speak. She just tightened her shoes and met his eyes. When the second half began, she turned into a machine, scoring from deep, dishing out assists, diving for loose balls. The crowd was eating it up, every shot and steal feeding into the frenzy. With 2 minutes left, the game was tied. Then disaster struck. A fast break play ended with Caitlin on the floor again, this time holding her ankle. She winced, trying to stand, but pain shot up her leg. The trainer rushed over. "Can you play?" he asked. Caitlin didn't answer. She just pushed herself up and limped to the sideline. The other team scored twice in her absence. 1 minute left, down by 4. The championship slipping away. She looked at Coach. "Put me in." He hesitated. "You can barely walk." She grabbed his clipboard, shoved it back into his hands. "Then they won't expect me to shoot." The moment she re-entered, the defense shifted, loosening on her, expecting her to be a decoy. And that's when she struck. A fake pass to the corner sent her defender lunging the wrong way. She stepped back, braced on her good leg, and launched a 3. Swish, down by 1. The final possession was chaos. Scrambling defenders, the ball nearly stolen twice. With 5 seconds left, the ball found Caitlin at the top of the key. One dribble, pull-up jumper. The ball floated through the air as the buzzer blared. Swish, the arena exploded. Her teammates tackled her to the ground. Somewhere in the chaos, her father's voice cut through the noise, cheering, yelling her name. She'd gone from benchwarmer to state champion. But here's the thing about sports glory. It fades fast. In the weeks after, recruiting calls came in. Big schools, big promises. Caitlin was on top of the world. She chose Iowa, the home state school, determined to keep building her story. Only college basketball was a different beast. The players were faster, stronger, sharper. The competition was relentless. And for the first time in years, Caitlin found herself facing things she thought she left behind. The bench. Freshman year began with her sitting more than she played. Coach said it was to ease her in, but she knew what it meant. She had to earn it all over again. Some games, she barely touched the ball. Others, she played well but still sat in crunch time. The whispers returned. She's not ready for this level. High school glory doesn't mean college stardom. Those words hit harder than any elbow in the paint. One night, after another game spent mostly watching from the sideline, Caitlin stayed in the gym long after everyone left. She shot until her legs gave out, collapsing onto the hardwood. She wasn't going to let this be her story. If you ever felt like the world doubted you twice, smash that subscribe button. We're just getting to the part where Caitlin rewrites her legacy. The next morning, she walked into practice with a new fire in her eyes. And by the end of that week, she would do something so explosive. Her coaches could never bench her again. The sun hadn't even risen when Caitlin walked into the practice gym. The janitor glanced up, startled, as she flipped on the lights. "Early start," he said. Caitlin didn't answer. She was already at the rack, ball in hand. That morning wasn't about drills. It wasn't about casual shooting. It was war. She ran full court sprints until her lungs burned, then shot until her arms went numb. The others arrived 2 hours later, chatting, laughing. They saw her drenched in sweat, still moving, still shooting. Nobody laughed. The next game was against one of the toughest teams in the conference, ranked top 5 nationally. The arena was packed, the noise almost physical. Caitlin sat through warm-ups with her headphones on, locked in. The plan was for her to come off the bench. She didn't fight it. She didn't need to. 5 minutes into the game, her team was already down by 12. The coach called her number. She walked onto the court like she owned it. First possession, crossover, step back 3, swish. Second possession, steal coast-to-coast layup. The crowd started buzzing. By halftime, she had 17 points, 5 assists, 3 steals. And she was just getting started. The second half was hers. Every time she touched the ball, the defense collapsed, freeing her teammates for easy buckets. When they didn't collapse, she punished them with deep threes. With 2 minutes left, the game was tied. The coach called timeout, drawing up a play for someone else. Caitlin listened and nodded, then walked back onto court with her own plan. The play broke down immediately. The ball found her hands near the logo, way beyond the arc. She took one dribble, rose up and let it fly. The crowd held its breath. Swish, her teammates erupted. The other team called timeout, but it was too late. The tide had turned. After the game, reporters swarmed her. One asked, "Was this your breakout performance?" Caitlin just smiled. No, this was my reminder. From that night forward, the bench was no longer her home. She became the player opponent's game plan for the one fans lined up to see. Her freshman season ended with her breaking school records. Her sophomore year, she led the nation in scoring. By junior year, she wasn't just a star, she was a phenomenon. But there's something the highlight reels never show. They don't show the nights she stayed in the gym until the janitors kicked her out. They don't show the games where she played through pain no one knew about. They don't show the mental battles, the pressure, the criticism, the self-doubt that still crept in. Because being a legend isn't about the moments everyone sees. It's about the work when no one's watching. Her senior year brought the ultimate stage, the NCAA championship game. The opponent was stacked with All-Americans, bigger, faster, deeper than any team Caitlin had faced. The media framed it as a mismatch. She took it personally. The opening minutes were rough. Missed shots, turnovers, the other team jumping to a quick lead. But Caitlin didn't flinch. She knew games weren't won in the first quarter. Slowly, she chipped away, driving to the rim, hitting step backs, dishing assists. The gap shrank. The crowd got louder. By the fourth quarter, the game was tied. 2 minutes to go. The possession that followed will be replayed forever. Caitlin brought the ball up, her defender glued to her. She dribbled between her legs, faked right, spun left, then pulled up from 3 feet beyond the arc. The ball dropped clean through the net. The arena shook. The final buzzer sounded minutes later. Confetti rained down. Caitlin stood at center court, tears in her eyes, the championship trophy in her hands. Her father found her in the chaos, hugging her so tight she could barely breathe. "You took your moment," he whispered. From benchwarmer to legend, that's the part everyone knows now. But the truth? The legend was built long before the spotlight ever found her. And maybe that's the real story no one tells. Caitlin Clark didn't wait for her name to be called. She made the world say it. If Caitlin's journey lit a fire in you, share this video with someone who needs to hear it. And drop a comment with the words "no going back," so we know you're part of the ones who take their moment. As Caitlin left the arena that night, the crowd outside still chanting her name, she glanced back once at the court. The lights were dim now, the confetti being swept away, but she knew her story wasn't ending. It was just moving to a bigger stage.